We will now call on our government witness, Mr. Mamadou Samba, Director of the Mayor's Office on African Affairs. Please state your name for the record, and then we may proceed with the oath.
Mamadou Samba.
Thank you. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm under the penalty of perjury that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may proceed.
All right. Good afternoon, Chairman Todd, members of the Committee on Government Operations, and members of the public. My name is Mamadou Samba, and I'm honored to testify before your committee as the Executive Director of the Mayor's Office on African Affairs. As we start the third year of the Basel administration, we're very excited to continue to serve the district's African community. We are equally proud of the great work my team and I, along with our Commission on African Affairs, have done to bring to the community quality program that supports Mayor Basel's policy priorities. Through our 6 programmatic areas, we ensure that the district's African community, estimated between 16 to 18,000, continues to take full advantage of the wide range of services offered by the District of Columbia government. In 2016, the Mayor's Office on African Affairs, which, as you may know, is the only office on African affairs at the municipal level established of the African community, celebrated 10 years since its establishment, marking a decade of service to the African community. A consistent approach to all of our events, program, outreach initiative, and activities we've engaged in FY16 has been partnership. To support Mayor Basel's public safety priorities, we partnered with the Metropolitan Police Department to establish the first ever African affiliates team and conducted targeted outreach activities to African businesses, hair salons, and in residential areas such as in Ward 4. These outreach activities contribute in the long term to addressing public safety concerns associated with cultural and language barriers, stigma, stereotype, and the lack of understanding and fear of law enforcement officers by some members of the African community. In partnership with our FY grantees, we serve over 5,000 residents in areas such as economic and workforce development, linkages to health and human services, youth engagement, and the promotion of arts, culture, and humanities. In 2016, we partnered with President Obama's Mandela Washington Fellows for Young African Leaders, Howard University, the UNESCO Center for Peace to host and serve DC, by the way, to serve the annual and much anticipated Young African Connection Summit, which creates a platform for district African community to promote civic engagement, volunteerism, and advocacy. The summit is followed each year by the commemoration of the Mandela Day of Service with 67 minutes of service, with 67 minutes of community volunteerism. This year, over 150 volunteers joined us, along with Serve DC, the Department of Public Works with Director Schroeder, the Metropolitan Police Department, and community partners to remove over 1,000 pounds of trash from the Anacostia River in Ward 8. On September 27, 2016, we hosted our 10th anniversary celebration. We hosted the 10th anniversary celebration of the Mayor's Office on African Affairs, where Mayor Basel recognized much deserving leaders that have supported us and the African community. Over 600 attendees took part in the festivities that serve as a visible testament to the unprecedented growth and presence of African residents in the District of Columbia, and celebrated the varied identities of the African people. In FY16, we witnessed increased enrollment in our ECHO African Diaspora Coding Academy, a web and mobile application development training conducted in partnership with the Office of the Chief Technology Officer and Coders of Africa, aiming to bridge the technology divide by providing greater access to free coding, software design, and application development to the growing African-born population in the District of Columbia. The program reinforces Mayor Basel's commitment to focus on high-growth industries, such as technology, to stimulate job creation and prepare district residents with long-term competitive skills and expand economic opportunities. In FY16 as well, we reinforce our capacity by welcoming a new language access coordinator tasked with working closely with the covered entities under the 2004 Language Access Act to ensure greater access and participation in public services, programs and activities for the French and Amharic-speaking members of our community. In FY16, we will continue to collaborate with district agencies to strengthen our programs and initiatives with innovative ideas. We look forward to continuing to support Mayor Bowser's vision to ensure that each resident in the District of Columbia, including the African community, has access to greater economic opportunities. In closing, I'd like to thank my team, Deputy Director Heran Sadeka Barhan, our Outreach Liaison Bazawit Mane, our Language Access Coordinator Ali Kaba, Andreas Emmanuel, our interns Donna Nembeka, and all of those that have supported us to make sure that we continue to perform successfully. I would also like to thank you for your leadership and for your support. Thank you very much, and this concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Director. Thank you for that, for your testimony. Can you talk a little bit about, and I believe you did in your testimony, about how your office worked with the Metropolitan Police Department to set up the African Liaison Unit?
Yeah, so in 2015, when we first came on board with Mayor Bowser, we started an initiative to address public safety concerns in the African community. We started by creating a task force that included almost all public safety serving agencies. And we had a couple of meetings and came up with different recommendations. One of them was the establishment of a public safety liaison unit. We approached former Chief Catalanier, and who was open to the idea. And one new chief, who I'd like to congratulate, by the way, and our mayor for selecting for such a great choice. We continue to work with him along with his team to identify African police officers in MPD who are tasked with working with us to do outreach. And so every month, I or a member of my team works with them, and we've been very present in Ward 4. Where, as you mentioned, you heard from previous testimony that there's been increased presence. And all of that came as a result of our commitment to making sure that, particularly now where we get a lot of Africans and immigrants in general who are generally afraid. And when it comes to the African community, you have those of us that are either don't understand the process, are afraid of law enforcement, so we try to make sure that we work with them to make sure that they understand what are their rights, that when they have a challenge, they can reach out to them and to get their issues addressed. And it's been very good when we go to hair salons, for example, and we tell them we're not here because you're in trouble, but we're here so that when you do have an issue that needs to be addressed, you can reach out to us.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And your office also staffed a language access coordinator.
Yes, we have
about what their role is.
Yeah, we have a language access coordinator. His name is Ali Kaba. He's somewhere around here. And so Ali joined our team late 2016 after interning with us unpaid for 9 months. And so he took over the language access duties in our office. And so since joining on board, we work very closely with Jackie Reyes and her team, language access coordinator and her team, where we model our language access program under what she has. They are more established than we have, so we somewhat cheat from her a lot. And so our language access coordinator, since joining on board, has done a number of things, met with a number of agencies that are under the Language Access Act, including the Office of Human Rights, to provide insight on the FY16 Language Access Report. And he's also meeting with our grantees to conduct an assessment of the language access needs with our grantees and district government agencies. And so moving forward in the third quarter, all of those assessment and information that is gathered will be implemented in our outreach. But we are also doing outreach with MPD, with the business community, where we're providing quality control for agencies, including programs that are happening where we make sure that it is translated in French and Amharic and it gets to the community.
Thank you. And before I move forward, I would be remiss, Director, if I didn't thank you and your team, as was noted in an earlier public witness's testimony. You contacted my office about an issue in my ward. You came to us with solutions, and we worked on them together. And now we've made, I think, tremendous progress in making sure that people can feel safe and secure in their neighborhood. So thank you for your leadership and your swift action.
Thank you.
I think you spoke about it in your testimony, the Nelson Mandela Day of Service, a district-wide event, and it has grown tremendously over the past couple of years. Can you tell me how many people participate in that Day of Service, and what are your office's plans on growing that event?
Yeah, so we started this initiative in 2015. We launched the Young African Connection Summit, which is on July 15th, but it leads up to the Mandela Day of Service, which is an internationally celebrated event where Nelson Mandela himself, who is my idol, and as an African, and I think as a human being, you cannot help but to adore somebody like Nelson Mandela. And so he asked us, the young African generation, that instead of celebrating his birthday with parties, go out and volunteer. And this is no different from the the ML King Day of Service, where this year we partnered with Serve DC, Delano Hunter, who was here previously, and we recruited over 150 volunteers. And we went out on Anacostia River, and each volunteer dedicated 67 minutes, which is an hour, to better our community. And so it's been a wonderful event. It's getting recognition. We had Director Chris Shorter participated, DPW. And following the event, we were visited by Nelson Mandela's own grandson, who came to the office and wanted to thank us for doing that. And so we hope to continue to do this year and going forward.
Okay, thank you. Can you provide insight into your office's partnerships with other district agencies and federal agencies and the programs that those collaborations have produced?
Yeah, we, pretty much everything we do in our Office on African Affairs, we partner with other agencies. I mentioned earlier that we partner with Serve DC. Last week, we partnered with the Commission on Arts and Humanities with the Office of African American Affairs under Director Rahman Branch, and with Jackie Reyes. And we're doing it again today, actually, where we're doing a second partnership with Office of Latino Affairs and Office of African American Affairs on another Black History Month celebration. We partner with the Office of the Chief Technology Officer to help them bridge the technology divide in the African community. We partner with MPD to establish an African liaison unit. We partnered with last year on the Know Your Rights Town Hall with ABRA, DCRA, the Office of Tenants Advocate. We partnered with the DPW to do our summit. We also partnered with several district government agencies, including DCHR, where most of our events, we either ask them to come provide information, or we partner with them where they help us cover for some of the costs of hosting a program at Lincoln Theater, for example, where DC Commissioner of Arts and Humanities was instrumental in making us do that. So pretty much, we've become subject matter experts on partnership with DC government agencies, and I'm really glad of that.
Excellent. Do you partner with the University of the District of Columbia, or DOES?
We partner with DOES. Actually, as a matter of fact, right now my team is working with DOES and DCHR to put together a job fair, because we understand that while African immigrants may be the most educated immigrant groups in the U.S., there's a lot of those that have challenges where, you get into a cab in D.C., more than likely it's an Ethiopian guy driving a cab, probably has a PhD or master's degree, and is working at a low-paying job. So we are working with DOES and community partners to provide somewhat a training or some sort of a workshop where they want to transfer into that to some of the mayor's great opportunities that's happening in cities. So we partner with DOES and DCHR on programs like that. We haven't done it with UDC, but I remember a couple of months ago we were introduced to some education opportunities that exist through UDC that we will work to make sure they get to the African community.
This past summer, and you discussed it some in your testimony, your office hosted the second Young African Connections Annual Summit titled Impact Through Leadership, Civic Engagement, and Social Entrepreneurship at the Howard University School of Business Auditorium. Can you tell the committee more about the summit and provide some insight into the program's future, as well as what is Howard University's involvement, and do you look to expand it to any other universities, perhaps the University of the District of Columbia?
Yeah, actually, we are always looking to do something with the University of the District of Columbia. As a matter of fact, our coding program that I mentioned earlier, I'll reach out to them where if they could provide us with a facility, a computer lab that has, let's say, 100 computers, we can actually include their students, which has a large African population in UDC. The summit is actually becoming one of our signature programs where, based on my own experience, I found advocacy and community volunteering very important. It's made an impact in my own life. So we try to create a platform where Africans can also be involved in the city's activities. When ServDC is recruiting volunteers, we want them to go volunteer for the snow cleanup. When people are going out to advocate for things, we want them to know how to advocate, how to reach out to their council members. And you've seen some of that already, where they've actually reached out to you. And so the summit is just a platform where we can exchange and say, bring leaders from the district government to share their experiences when it comes to business, when it comes to running a nonprofit. We're just connecting them with the resource and the knowledge. And it's been very, very, very successful. People come from all over the place. And this year, we look forward to doing it again with Howard University, which is celebrating its, 150th birthday, 100th birthday. So it will be a good time.
Excellent. Thank you very much. What are your plans for African Heritage Month?
I'm sorry?
Does your office have any plans for African Heritage Month celebrations?
We haven't started planning it yet, but it will be bigger and better than it was last year. Normally we do a festival. This year, I don't know what we'll do, but I guarantee you that mark your calendars. You don't want to miss it.
Right. Well, I like it. Bigger and better.
We want to do it in Ward 4 maybe this year. I don't know. We'll see.
Do it in Ward 4. We have a lot of wonderful spaces, and I am the council member that represents the most Africans in the District of Columbia. So I think it's most apropos that it's held in Ward 4, the bigger and the better version, right?
Okay. Everybody, I think everybody heard that, so yeah,
yes.
Definitely.
And Mayor Bowser has reaffirmed, and the entire council has joined her in reaffirming that our city will remain a sanctuary city.
Sure.
Can you talk about any outreach efforts that your office has undertaken to alleviate any concerns or fears or unrest among Africans in the District of Columbia?
Yeah, so we've joined our mayor in reaffirming DC as a sanctuary city. We, as you heard earlier from David Doe, we also are part of the initiative to make sure that African legal organizations do apply and get access to the grant funding that provide support to immigrant communities. On a day-to-day basis, people walk into our office or they call us and they express with us or with me their fears of what's going on, and we try to appease them. Last week, I participated in a panel discussion at Georgetown University, where there was a discussion about fears of being an immigrant and a Muslim in the United States. I participated in that to share my own experiences as a Muslim in the United States and as an immigrant who, have people who are very close to me, friends of mine that are facing those fears. So we sympathize with them, and we tried our best to make sure that they know they should not be afraid. That yes, this is a sanctuary city, and if they have any fears or is a victim of a crime, they should not be afraid to reach out to us, call the cops, and they should not fear being deported just because they call a cop. So, visit an emergency system, emergency ER system or service, whatever you call it.
Thank you for that. Does your office have grant-making authority?
Yes, we have $106,000.
Can you describe some of your notable grantees and what some of the services are that they provide?
Yeah, you actually heard from them earlier. Jan Penn, the gentleman who sat here under the hepatitis, which has been a strong supporter of our office, and they work with us to provide hepatitis outreach and to the community. We have Kankuran, which is one of the longest serving traditional African dance groups, actually the only remaining in the city. They've been here for 30 years, and because of the grants that they get from us, they are able to stay in the city rather than moving to Maryland or Virginia, which is, I think, a good thing. We work very closely with the African Women Cancer Awareness Association, which provides cancer screening and referral services to Africans who are victims who suffer from cancer. I've had a chance to meet some of those victims myself a few times, and unfortunately, some of them have passed away as a result of being cancer patients. But they've done a wonderful job at providing outreach, and there are many. I mean, the Ethiopian Community Center again is another nonprofit, longest serving. That is serves the Ethiopian community, which is the largest in the community. So yeah, I mean, many of them are notable, but and I look forward to continue to working with them.
Thank you very much, Director. The committee does not have any further questions, but thank